the funnier thing that, that we had.
Pushing the limits.
Was pushing the limits. And maybe that's a good thing.
What are the limits now? It doesn't seem like we are a culture of limits. And we've gone now 11 minutes without saying what the heck podcast this even is.
Really? 11 minutes?
Hey, LA, why don't you kick off the podcast?
Me? You want me to kick it off?
Yeah.
You mean this podcast, the Great Beaver Fiasco podcast?
And pause for the intro and listen to it go. There it is.
Beaver Dam, Wisconsin's got peppers and a stage. Beaver Dam, Kentucky's where Bill Monroe first played. Beaver Dam, anywhere the people all say, have a gosh dang beaver darn great damn day.
Sounds so nice.
Man, wow, that was good.
I love it.
It's wonderful.
Yes. So what we were talking about, though, movies, comedy. I think the safest thing that a person can make comedy out of is themselves.
I would agree with that. Mm-hmm. I would also say physical comedy because you're not using words, and that seems to be where most of the trouble comes from. But then the physical comedy kind of moves almost into like magic and stunts then of like Jackass. Like that was kind of funny, but it was like how ridiculous, how far are you willing to go for this? Or Buster Keaton comes to mind, of course. Of like, you're willing to crash an actual train into a gully and it stayed there for years until World War II when they needed the steel. Like something so outlandish like that is, I think, the pinnacle of like physical comedy.
But that is always been something that's been few and far between. There's like only one Mr. Bean. There's only one Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin on down the list. And certainly that was prevalent more in the early days of cinema. But now we've gotten away from the Mr. Beans. Who are Mr. Bean's contemporaries?
I have no idea.
Some of the more,
we actually have a can of Heinz beans and curry here on the table with us.
The synchronicity of that, wow.
Yes.
What is that? That's an actual product?
Yeah, so I got this from
World
Market. It's all the craze in Great Britain.
And I believe you mean cost plus World Market.
Okay, well, it was a little expensive, but still, where else are you going to find curry beans?
If they're not giving us money, I don't know why we're mentioning them at all.
No, they're not.
They're not sponsoring us.
Just wanted to say it.
Let's go shake them down now. We mentioned you on our podcast.
But
7 people were listening. They rushed out to buy your beans.
That's how we know we actually made it as a podcast, when people start actively boycotting us.
Oh, that would be so awesome if we got boycotted.
Because then you have
offensive things can we say?
You have a group of dedicated fans that are against your show.
You said some crazily offensive things last week.
I don't even recall what
maybe
2 weeks ago.
What did we say?
Close. I don't know. We were talking about like religion.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what
we've
you're
talked about
thinking
religion
about?
multiple times, yeah.
Something like that. Anytime.
So, cannibalism.
That's why you don't want to have comedy movies
the cannibalism.
about
Yeah, it was the cannibalism loaf. Yeah, that was
just lighthearted,
that was fun.
Conversation.
Should we do a health check-in because it has been 2 weeks? Like, how are we all doing with this thing called life? Life's a weird thing. It doesn't taste like chicken. It's kind of a weird meat. How are you doing with it, LA? How has life been for you?
Well, I think I have seasonal affective disorder like all year long, if that's a thing. But I'm happy to see you two. I'm lucky. I have a great life. That makes me healthy, I guess.
I'm glad to see you too.
Yeah. How about you guys?
I'm doing well. I'm in some things that I cannot publicly say at this moment, but are very exciting, and I cannot wait to talk about it more in the future.
What? Do you know what he's talking about?
I might have an idea.
I bet you do. You have no idea. You have no clue.
Wow.
I might have to tell you later.
Can we pause this so I can find out? And let's take a break here on the Great Beaver Fiasco.
Well, but then you might let it slip if we take a break.
Oh, I totally would.
No, I'm not saying anything, Greg. I know you.
I'm terrible.
But it is pretty exciting. So, but health-wise, both of you are fine and dandy as candy on a hot summer day.
Wow.
It depends on the candy and not chocolate.
And bursitis is acting
I'm not
up.
melting on a rock anywhere.
Yeah, but on a hot summer day, you
really
put the candy in the
bothering me.
refrigerator, and then it's nice. The chocolate is crunchy and all that.
Yeah, I'm crunchy chocolate. I'm doing well. I got lots of flavor.
You melty chocolate, Craig?
I don't like chocolate in the refrigerator.
No, the freezer?
Oh, that's so much worse. Don't do that.
You can gnaw on it like a bone.
Well, where's the fun in that?
I don't know.
I guess it slowly melts in your mouth then.
the possibility that you might break a tooth and then you don't, so you're happy.
I would rather have a frozen Snickers bar than a Snickers bar out of the refrigerator.
Why is that?
Because a frozen, you're committed to a frozen Snickers bar at that point. It's a thing in and of itself.
Mm-hmm. You can't do anything else but eat that frozen Snicker bar.
Yeah, maybe even wait a little bit for it to get. But, when you put chocolate into a refrigerator, you just lose that kind of moment when you bite into it, if it's room temperature where it kind of all melts in your mouth at the same time. And you get an uneven chocolate distribution, particularly with a Snickers bar, right? Suddenly you're in the nougat and everything is all melting on your tongue and the caramel is coating everything. And that chocolate, it's still frozen. It's not frozen. It's still chilled from being in the refrigerator.
Yeah, I like that.
So there's a delayed melt on it. Not right.
Is that the best candy bar to keep in the freezer? Because I think you're right. Like, there's so many different layers there that it's more interesting when it's frozen. Like Reese's, that wouldn't be very good frozen.
Can you say what he just said, Craig?
You talking about Reese's Pieces?
Reese's?
Yes, thank you.
You just got to call me out here.
Reese's on a bagel.
It's Reese's, but he says it funny.
Well, he's from Illinois. That's
Yeah,
why.
well,
That's
there you
true.
go. That explains that.
York peppermint patties are pretty good in the freezer.
Oh,
that.
yes.
I've never done that.
They're
but
very
Oh,
refreshing.
delicious. And then with a nice cold glass of milk.
Yuck.
You don't drink milk?
I hate milk.
You're the most
I wish I
anti-dairy
did.
co-host on this show.
It's just, it's just the secretions of a swarthy animal.
Yeah, I know, but
Swarthy.
they're good. Like, there's nothing else like it. I mean, you can try to drink
Yeah.
almond milk, which isn't even really milk, and it's not the same.
Have you seen that
It is milk.
this last week that there's some major pushback against oat milk?
I've seen that.
Because there's no nutritional value, like there's no
Yes.
protein in it, like
It's-
it's not really helping you in anything.
And it's basically garbage.
Yeah, it's added calories.
I have seen that, yes.
and nothing.
Because one of my daughters was trying to drink it for a while, and I'm like, don't drink it. Just don't. I mean, almond milk was one thing, fine, but not oat milk.
I mean, we're insulting the entire dairy industry by continuing to call them milks, but
Yes, we are, because it's not really milk. It's just kind of like a creamy liquid that comes off.
But milk doesn't own the word. The dairy industry doesn't own the word milk. It's been used by Shakespeare in a variety of contexts. Milk, the word milk is not a myopic one and done word. It is a versatile word.
which, I mean, now that you mention that, like milking the moment and just the imagery of taking the moment, and I guess the moment has like udders and you're just
Right.
squirting out life
Sure.
from the present moment.
Yeah.
I mean, that is really strange when you put it that way.
But that makes me feel like I'm behind in things when you say that.
behind.
Like, I better hurry up and get stuff done. I don't know. The way you said that and the way you did that.
Well,
like,
and then I also
just-
put in the action of actually milking
I
something.
know, but I think, don't you milk like this?
Squeeze it?
For the home audience,
It's a squeeze and pull motion, I think,
I'd like
right?
to
I've never milked a cow.
explain that Thomas put his hands above his head when he was motioning and squeezing his hands.
Mm-hmm.
So, in theory, then, Thomas, when you would milk a cow,
It's a really
you
big
would
cow.
somehow be under the cow in such a way that your hands would be above your head. Is that what I'm to take from?
Well, the
I think he was
microphone
doing that
is
to
right
show
in front of
us,
me. Like,
yeah.
I can't do it right. Okay, so it'll be more eye level. You want to make sure you're getting a good squeeze and a good pump.
Have either one of you ever milked a cow?
Yes,
You have?
I have. Yes.
Thomas?
I don't think so.
Okay, so the guy from Illinois has milked a cow.
I feel awful.
Right, but I've only milked cows in like touristy educational settings. I've never like gone to a farm and woken up at 5 in the morning and had to work
so
the
not
cows
a
or
real
anything.
cow. Basically, probably just a stunt double cow.
A stunt cow, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it just made almond milk. Actually, it wasn't even a real cow. It was just but it was a real cow. It's just, but you're right. Yeah, it was used to having 6-year-olds pulling on its udders.
Oh my gosh, the poor thing. Wow.
That's a tough cow.
It is.
Well, now it's just a machine, right? Now it's just suction tubes and you just insert them on and then they use vacuum into it.
As I
That's what I've
understand it.
seen, yes. I mean, and I'm afraid of cows anyway, so there's no way I would ever try to milk a cow.
We tried that, didn't we? We tried to have some sort of petition of getting you to milk a cow.
Yes.
I rember. It didn't really go anywhere.
No.
Oh
no,
yeah, because yeah.
They scare me. They're just so big. Like, they're huge.
But look at their eyes. They're like just big bowls of Jell-O.
I know, but they're just like another species,
They're bursting with milk. It's painful if you don't get milked.
I know, which is awful to think about that they have to be milked.
Yeah.
It's an awful thing.
Yeah.
But it's delicious.
We can go in a lot of different directions here.
I'm really holding myself
We could, but
back
basically
right
we could just go in the direction of thinking that, dairy farmers then never have a day off.
Right. Yeah.
That
A lot
farm
of
is
jobs
always
out there are 7-day-a-week jobs. You open a restaurant. You might find yourself with a 7-day-a-week job. I was just a buddy of mine has a restaurant in Chicago, and I was just thinking about, boy, that's you're signing on for 24/7, 365 when you do something like that.
It's like
And it's a big risk.
And it's a big risk. He's
you don't
opened
know.
his second restaurant,
Oh,
so he's
okay.
doing very well. I'll give him a shout. Anytime you're in the Chicagoland area, go to Bartoli's. They've got 2 locations, including one at Addison and Damon.
They do not officially
what's your
sponsor
favorite
us.
They
dish
do not
there?
Go to
sponsor the
Bartoli's.
show.
No. What do they have? What do they serve? What type of food?
It's a pizzeria.
Ooh.
It's
I
a
would love
pizzeria.
that.
And we have to cut this part out, but I will tell you the trick. I'm pretty sure that wasn't the sausage that, in fact, I think it's the exact same sausage. You're a vegetarian, I think, but I think it's the exact
I'm
same
not a
sausage
vegetarian.
doesn't eat
I just don't eat pork.
that you would, right, okay. It's the same sausage, I think, on the Gino's East Pizza that you would get on the pizza at Park Plaza Pizza. It tastes exactly the same.
I've only had Park Plaza Pizza like once or twice, and the only pizza I've actually got there was tuna and shrimp.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so there was a special where it was like shrimp and sausage, and I'm like, well, I can't have sausage.
I
Let's
don't
just
know
double
why
up on
you-
the fish.
What?
It was
Tuna?
It
I've
was
never heard of
not a
tuna.
good idea.
They
but
shouldn't. That should be illegal to have that
I've
on a
never
pizza.
had tuna on a pizza. I've never
No.
gone to another place that offers tuna as a topping on a pizza.
No.
Except Park
That's
Plaza
so wrong
Pizza.
because Park Plaza's pizza is really good. I like it a lot.
I would argue that the crust is the most important piece of a pizza. And
It's
pizza's
hard
not
to
the right
say.
word.
I mean, if the crust is bad, then forget about it. I mean, you're not going to want to eat it. True.
But there are some people that don't even eat crust, so that's not even a tally
What do you
on
mean,
some
like
people.
the crust end or the whole
Oh, I mean
crust?
the crust end.
Oh, okay.
I mean the crust end.
Yeah.
But yes, when you say crust, you're talking about the bottom as
The
well.
base, yeah.
Right.
Soft doughy portion that's underneath the sauce and cheese.
I was reminded about the whole pizza pie thing. I think we got in a pizza pie conversation once upon a time, many moons ago.
On this podcast?
Sure, or maybe another. I don't remember. And I was reminded while eating this Gino's pizza of why that Chicago-style deep dish is called a pizza pie. And, they put the sauce on top. I think I always used to write it off a deep dish. I'm not a huge fan of deep dishes, but I think I always wrote it off because I thought it was just too much bread. And I think you hear a lot of people probably say that if they don't like deep dishes. I mean, that is a lot of bread, but
I know. I love it.
it's a lot of cheese too that's under that sauce that's on top. And it is
part,
interesting to see the ingredients occasionally flipped on their head, if you will. So
It's the only pizza worth eating with a fork.
You think so?
Yes, I don't. I choose not to, but it's so thick like that, and it's so gooey with all that extra cheese that each bite that you spear into really holds on well.
My question, though, are you talking about deep dish with only one crust, or are you talking about a pizza pie where there's 2 crusts, like it is a pie?
I don't know. If I
I've
understand
never
the
heard of
question.
that.
Really?
No,
You've never had it where
never.
it's not deep dish like really doughy. It's actually like a pie.
I mean, I think that's what the Gino's East pie. It is kind of shaped like it is like a pie. It's like when you think of when you see one of those pies that doesn't have the bread on top. It's just like the pie that has.
Oh, like a Dutch apple.
Is that what they call
Yeah.
it? Yeah, like one of the.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what a Chicago deep dish is like.
Yes.
You've got the sauce on top. It's really kind of in a bucket-shaped thing, like a pie. Maybe a cut-off bucket. Maybe that's not the right word.
Cut off bucket.
Like a bucket if you were to cut
It's
the
like
top
it's
off.
like a cast iron pan almost.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
it is.
Right. There you go. There's a good comparison.
I'm not the only one though that has had like a double crust pizza.
Maybe we're using different words for the same thing because
Stuffed pizza.
That's stuffed pizza.
guess.
We're talking about
Yes.
something that's like
A double
okay.
2
crust
inches
pizza.
thick.
Well, excuse
Which I would
me.
think would be your double, which I would think would
Yes.
be what you're talking about with a
Yes.
double crust pizza.
Yes.
I just maybe I just never encountered the term being used that way. Maybe that
Okay.
term is used outside of Chicago for a deep dish pizza. Chicago's kind of
Silver's double dough pizza, thank you, Google AI, doubling up the amount of dough used, resulting in a mouthful of rich, gooey goodness.
AI told you that?
Okay, it might have been a
highly
different
descriptive.
website.
Rich,
but, you know.
gooey goodness.
Nothing of like 2 layers of crust. I mean, that's what I think about a double crust pizza.
Yeah.
But that's what it
You've
would be
had
2
that.
layers of
Yes,
crust.
I've had that before.
Where?
Yes. Rosati's Anybody ever go to Rosati's?
Is that in?
No.
Where's that?
It's maybe it's a Wisconsin thing. There's one in Madison. There's some up in the Fox Valley.
Okay.
But long time ago, when Pizza Hut was good, sorry if you like Pizza Hut, they used to have the Priazzos, and they were like that. They were a double crust. It was like a deep dish pizza, but not deep dish crust. And then there was the filling, and then they put another crust on top with sauce and cheese.
Ooh.
And it was so good.
That sounds really good.
Was.
Not a, what is that when they fold a pizza
Calzone?
over?
No, not a calzone.
Not a calzone.
Nope, not a calzone.
Was it like a calzone, but with another layer on top yet again?
No, it was its own thing. It was Priazzo. And they stopped making it. I found out they stopped making it on my 23rd birthday because we went to Pizza Hut for my birthday dinner so I could have my favorite dinner, a Priazzo Roma. And
Wow,
they didn't
this
have
does
it.
look really a 2-layer pizza, pound of cheese, toppings, and like eating a bread bowl filled with pizza ingredients.
Yes, it was so good. But I mean, Pizza Hut is not what it used to be. Like I remember when I was a kid, but I grew up in a small town as well. So there was like the local pizza place that everybody called Greasy Steve's, but then there was also
Was that what it was called, or?
well, it was Steve's, but everybody called it Greasy. You know, if you were going to go to Steve's, then you would hear somebody say, "Oh, Greasy Steve's," you know, and Pizza Hut, right? And
Do you think Pizza Hut has changed, or our tastes as consumers have changed?
it's changed.
They changed their ingredients.
Yes.
They downgraded the quality of their ingredients,
yeah.
and so they make a
it
poor
was
quality
like 15
pizza.
years ago, I think Pizza Hut was still on top of it, and Domino's was kind of on the bottom. They had that cardboard style crust. They made that switch, and then Domino's now is like the new Pizza Hut, like 25, 30 years ago.
It's a good sauce. I don't like most mass-produced pizzas, you know, like the chain restaurants and everything, the Papa John's and but Domino's really kind of turned it around. They make a decent pizza now. I don't know how that happened, but I prefer to, go to your local pizzeria, folks. Shop local and support your locally owned businesses, but Pizza Hut makes not a bad pizza for a chain restaurant.
You mean Domino's?
Domino's makes not a bad pizza for a chain restaurant.
We have to really stop filming or recording this podcast. We're not filming anything. Recording this podcast right before dinner.
I know.
This
I
always
know.
happens.
I
like
haven't
we
had
start talking
dinner
about,
either.
This is a lot better than talking about human meatloaf, though. I will say that.
LA brought up her hometown,
Yes.
and there's the hometown alert.
But it's Thursday night. It's not
That's right, yeah.
Tuesday. So
What a busy man.
you have a
Craig
good
is.
defense.
So LA's hometown, you were saying.
LA's hometown. Tell us a little bit about growing up in, western, southwestern Wisconsin. And like what like for example,
Just look on your face. It's your hometown. Like, you
like-
should know this like the back of your head.
Yeah, tell us maybe about some of the boys you dated, or the movies you saw there, or
Oh
maybe
my
some of
God.
the places you worked.
Wow.
Well, I think my experience was probably not like a lot of kids who were living in Platteville at that time, because my mom had a daycare center in our house. There were 9 kids, so it was just like super chaotic. But also, Platteville is a small town, but it's like half of it is a university, and so being on the younger end of the kids in my family, like there are 9 kids, I'm the second youngest, I benefited from my older siblings going to college, and I was exposed to there are a lot of international students that go to Platteville because it's mainly a mining school, an engineering school, and an agricultural school. So there were, people from all over the world. So I think I had a different sort of, like when people think southwestern Wisconsin, they think farms, rural, they think, I don't know, Little House on the Prairie maybe. But I was really fortunate to be exposed to a lot of different cultures when I was growing up.
Yeah, so I was thinking like you were more exposed to the world of academia and just different ideas and what people would have been talking about going to the evening bar rather than the morning bar.
Yeah, true. But what was your question again? What was it like? What did I do?
Who did you date?
Who did I date? Well,
Yeah.
high school was a nightmare for me. So maybe I won't get into that, except for there actually was a boy that I dated for a while.
At Begley Jr.
No, he's much older than I am. Right. Thank you very much. But I think he was just dating me, I thought at the time, so he could play our ColecoVision.
Oh.
Because my younger brother and I had ColecoVision. And I think I was wrong, though, but I do remember breaking up with him one day because I had a terrible migraine and he came to the house. And in my mind, I was just like, okay, I can't deal with this. I have a headache. I'm in high school, too, right? And I'm just like, no more ColecoVision for him. And I just remember standing there in the doorway just saying, yeah, I think we just shouldn't go out anymore. Because we pretty much stayed in to play ColecoVision.
Which was cool. I loved ColecoVision.
I know, right? But then I think maybe I did break his heart because then the following summer, because this would have been like, I don't know, March. And I did spend some time, like our main street had like all these different like Subway places and stuff, like sub sandwiches. It was like called Pickle Barrel Sub, and they had like Pac-Man arcade games.
Ooh, yeah.
And I was terrible at that, but my kind of friend was addicted to that. And so I would go with her sometimes. And I remember there was a night it was a summer night, and we were going to go to Pickle Barrel Sub so she could play Pac-Man. And his name was Gary. Gary was across the street. He had this enormous boom box because it was like 1980 something, right? And he saw me and he started playing that song by the Tubes, She's One in a Million. He just kept looking over at me so sad, and yeah.
Well, he had that song on tape just at hand, like in the odd chance that if I see her again, I got the tape ready.
Yeah.
The Tubes. Featuring Grateful Dead keyboardist Vince Wellman.
Really? Yeah. I didn't know that.
Weird little tie-in there. So I know I may have insulted you by suggesting that you may have dated an older man in Ed Begley Jr.
You did insult her.
But that is, just for those who may be unfamiliar, that is not a completely bizarre statement for me to make. You were in a movie with Ed Begley Jr.
Oh, yeah. I had lunch with him.
Yeah. Didn't he? Mm-hmm. I thought he hit on you at lunch.
No, he didn't hit on me. He just sat across from me.
What did he have for lunch?
I believe it was just a peanut butter sandwich.
Very, very environmentally sound.
That's another red flag. If someone's eating just peanut butter, no jelly, no honey, no nothing.
There might have been jelly.
Could have been honey. You never know. Honey, the color of honey and the color of peanut butter are interchangeable.
Yeah, same color. But yeah, he was right there. So.
And what movie was that?
Meet the Applegates.
Oh, that's
a terrible movie.
Oh, yes.
It's a great idea. Like, somebody should remake it, because it is the idea is that these aliens come to Earth, and what they have for learning how Earthlings behave is just a Dick and Jane reader from the 50s. Yeah, which I don't know if people know what that is anymore, but.
Hey, speaking of Dick and Jane,
yeah, Craig.
Didn't you work somewhere at a place that sold Dick and Jane books?
Well, I worked at Dick's Supermarket.
Oh, okay. So they were not related to the Dick of Dick and Jane.
No.
And it was called?
Dick's.
Okay, and that's D-I-X.
No, D-I-C-K-S.
Would that be D-I-C-K apostrophe S?
I think there was an apostrophe, yes. Okay. I actually still have my apron from when I was a checker there.
You do?
Yeah, I found it when I was like going through some stuff, and it's hanging in the pantry now.
So was it like a family grocery store, and their last name was Richards or Dick's?
No, first name was Richard.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it could have been Richards.
Could have been, but they went with Dick's.
Wow.
It's more, we wouldn't be talking about a grocery store named, Steve Save-A-Lot. Most likely.
No, probably not.
I think Steve has some good deals over there. I think if you're looking for good deals on cucumbers and all types of carrots and vegetables, nobody beats Steve.
Zucchini's half price all year round.
Rock bottom prices over at Steve Save-A-Lot. Check them out.
Well, and the thing is that people still call it Dick's, even though now it's not Dick's anymore.
I'll still call it Rechecks. I don't care how many times I get sold.
I love that. Small towns refuse to get along with times. Yeah.
But they did have a saving card.
Oh, the Dick Save-A-Lot card.
No, it was called the Insider card.
Wait, no.
Inside her card.
Yes.
Wait, that was the name of the card.
Yes, it actually, and the card actually said it. This is what it said. Like, I'm not making this up, because I also still have that. And then I'm part of a Facebook group from people that used to work there, because I worked there when I was in college. And it was called the Dick's Insider Card.
This guy must have been trolling the entire town of Platteville.
Must have been.
Either that or he was just nobody would have that kind of dirty mind to think anything is wrong with that.
Maybe he was a saint. Yeah, maybe he
Have you met him before?
I did actually meet him at one point because my younger brother was dating one of his daughters.
You met
for
Dick?
a while. Yeah.
Was he a nice guy?
I guess.
That's a
kind of
no.
standoffish.
That's a no.
I mean, he was, established in the community. He was like, pillar of the community, I guess. He was older, so I didn't have time for somebody like me.
Did it seem like he had a perverted sense of humor?
Couldn't tell in the short meeting.
Okay.
And you say you still have the Dick's Insider card.
I did. I found that. Yes, I did. Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would make some money on eBay, possibly, or something.
I don't know if you'd want to be exposed to that market.
Well, if you do, you might want to
people looking for, classic Dick's Insider cards.
Well, just, be mindful, be protective of yourself as you do that.
And it was also like the first store that had those little like plastic bags with the handles. Because before that, most stores just had the paper bags, right? When that came into being, it was at Dick's grocery store, right? And so these bags became known as Dick's bags.
Wow. And they were like a revolutionary sack.
Oh, yeah.
Is what you're saying.
If anybody needed something, like you would just hang on to them, like people hang on to grocery bags, right?
But you could get a real good handle on this sack, is what you're saying. Because of this revolutionary change.
Every time. Never failed.
What a great receptacle.
Wow.
To carry all your groceries from Dick's.
Yeah. They're very strong.
What did the apron say?
Well, when I first started, we had to wear pins that said, I am new and eager to please.
Oh!
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was the branding of the store on there as well?
Yeah, although it did say Dick's Supermarket.
Dick's Supermarket.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
New and eager to please.
I can show you the apron. Yes. Yes.
So where is the logo in relation to new and easy to please?
No, it was
eager to please.
It was a pin that you had to wear on the apron.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, just where they put logos for aprons.
Okay. All right.
You never want to be too eager, though, when you're new, right? I mean, that's how you get into trouble.
Yes.
Did you have a lot of customers who were, who may have crossed the line with some of the
innuendos that may have
that
been
could
present
be
that we have not touched on ourselves?
With sick minds would maybe glean from
I honestly
such a thing.
think I was probably too naive to know. Although I did have
so many memories could have been.
I did have a secret admirer
at Dick's.
Yes.
Okay.
From working at Dick's.
Who worked did he work at Dick's?
No, he was actually a college professor, I found out.
Oh, that's normal.
He would come through my lane a lot. And around the same time I was starting to get cards in the mail, like snail mail, right? Because it was the 80s. So I was getting all these, like flowery secret admirer-ish cards in the mail. And I kind of suspected it was this guy, but then he sealed the deal when he bought the final card that he sent me in my lane.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was he maybe an English professor or what?
What do you got against English professors?
Well, I'm just saying like flowery cards. Like I'm thinking of like flowery language.
No, I think actually he was more in like in engineering or economics or something. Yeah.
Was he, and there's no good way to ask this question, was you said he was a professor, so
Yes.
it's not like he was a TA or he wasn't like a recent graduate student who's teaching there. He may have been a little bit even creepierly older.
Well, he was 26, which at the time, because I was in college, I thought, oh, wow, he's so old.
Yeah.
Which
26
now,
and a professor.
26 is a baby.
That's pretty.
Yeah.
That's pretty brilliant to be able to get professorhood.
That is, but, or one way or the other, that
Still
is
creepy. Still creepy.
My daughter's 27, and my wife and I have known each other since we were 18 or 19, and we were just telling her about how we had some friends when we were 18 or 19 who were 27, and we thought they were in their late 60s, essentially. They seemed like people who were, like, oh my, these old timers that come and hang around the house at age 27.
Wow.
And
Yeah, it's funny how that changes once you start to get older.
yeah, it's been as a music lover that I am, who's grown up with a lot of the music of people in the 27 Club, all Jim Morrison and Janis Joplin and Kurt Cobain and everybody who died at the age of 27. It's so weird crossing that equinox, if you will, from, these were people I started listening to when I was 15, 16, 17 years old, and they were, like I was just saying about my friends who were that same age, they were octogenarians as far as I could tell. And now here I'm a little bit older than 15 or 16, and I look back and
just slightly.
They're just kids. Kurt Cobain was just a dumb kid. Jim Morrison, a child.
Yeah.
It's funny what life will do to you. You'll find out one day when you grow up, Thomas.
I'm 32 now.
So
I
32.
hang around someone that's like 34. It's like, oh, good, like 34-year-old. And like just thinking about like, you're always searching for someone older than you, and like, okay, 35, and now 43, and eventually you get to that point where you're like 86, like, crap, no one's left. I must be old at this point. I
remember when like baseball players started to be younger than me, and things like things like that. Has there been, we'll use the 27 Club as an example for you. When you look back at 20-somethings, do you still see peers, or do they appear to be like a younger generation, a younger subset?
I think at this point it's a little bit younger. Like, seeing a player that's like 22 or 23 is like, wow, they really they seem to have known what they wanted to do with their life, and they seem successful. That would have been nice to maybe focus a little bit more in myself. But yeah, it is a little odd. But I also am glad that people are still able to chase their dreams when they're that young. Like I could have.
Well, I mean, they also have that athletic talent that,
True,
know.
I mean, that's a very specific example.
Exactly, because I'm older than both of you.
And I say that from the perspective of, growing up watching baseball, it seemed like, they were all these 60-year-old guys that were out there on the field. I mean, it's particularly, I'm born in the 70s. A lot of those guys with the mutton chops and I mean, they looked like, they looked like they were about Babe Ruth's age in the 80s, 70s and 80s.
I think that people did kind of view aging differently, obviously. So, I mean, because like I can look at pictures from like my grandparents when my grandma was my age. I mean, she gave up. I mean,
wow. She
did. She gave up, and it's like, it's very strange when you think about the fact that, I guess, different times expected different behaviors from people of a certain age.
Well, in their 30s and 40s, back in maybe the 50s or 60s. I know I just threw out a lot of round numbers there.
A lot of numbers. Too much math.
I mean, people just they just seemed older, and I feel like the date of that people die, I forget what that's called, mortality rate, death date, whatever that is. That's gone up since then, since say the 50s or the 60s, in the last 75 years or so. That our mortality rate has gone up. The age at which we die has gone up. So, I mean, in a sense, when you were 30 back in Jesus's time, that was a ripe old age.
Quite the accomplishment. But like what you just said about mutton chops or like big mustaches, I mean, when you are wearing facial hair from like 19th century presidents, you're going to look older. I don't think those styles have really caught on now.
Those style? What styles?
Like 19th century, like Martin Van Buren, like in the sideburns and stuff, like big burly hair, like Norman Thomas or Raleigh fingers, like. That's a style that's been around for hundreds of years, and people are kind of differentiating their style to really not fall into a time period.
Nowadays, you think?
I think nowadays.
You think that the style of 2025 is to be timeless?
I think
or the
we're
2020s?
Striving for that. Like, I have a mustache, but I also have facial hair around here. Like most guys in the 19th century, it would have been just a straight mustache. Like they wouldn't have allowed this weird-looking scruff.
But I would disagree with that in that I feel that retro is also been in style for a while, and it doesn't matter which retro it is. I was just commenting on how you looked like Starsky and Hutch the day that either Starsky or Hutch died. I forget which one.
Oh, yes.
Having not known that.
That was months ago you said that. I don't know why you're saying like, that was almost a year ago.
Well, yeah, that was a style though. I mean, that's kind of that 70s throwback style. I'd seen, nieces and nephews in my own family, embracing that kind of 70s thing there for a while. So, there's still a wink and a nod to, we may just have not gone through our 17th century presidential facial hair retro phase
We
yet.
didn't have presidents in the U.S. back in the 17th century.
I was just testing you.
Oh.
I meant 1700s.
I'm going to take a quick reprieve here and stir my chili, which is on the burner.
It's a euphemism, folks, just so you know. Thomas is going to stir the chili, if you will. Did they do that at Dick's? Did you ever have to stir the chili?
No chili at Dick's. No.
Did they have like a full service counter where they would serve like lunch meat and
you mean like
could
a
buy
deli
meals,
counter?
like a deli counter?
Yes, I believe they did.
All right. So what did you do at Dick's?
I was just a cashier.
Just a cashier,
just
no
a
such
checker.
thing.
Oh, well.
A vital cog in the machinery of our lives.
Considering now that they have self-checkouts, I think...
Well, they currently have self-checkouts.
Dick's does not have self-checkouts, though.
So you can't self-checkout Dick's at Dick's.
People want that physical contact with service.
Some people do. I prefer self-checkouts. But
Recheck still has people that, or formerly Rechecks, that will push the cart to you to your car. People
Really?
like that. That makes a huge impression.
Always call it Rechecks. I don't
too.
care how many name changes it goes through. It will be Rechecks.
Yeah.
But you make a good point.
Did I? Oh, excellent. Thank you. Yes.
I've noticed, though, that, and maybe I'm wrong, but men prefer to still have to be like checked out by a cashier.
I disagree.
Rather than self-checkouts? You like self-checkouts?
I like self-checkouts. I know they're not faster, but I just like knowing that I'm the one touching my items rather than like all the people I didn't see touching the cheese I just got.
That's why I like them too.
The less you have, the faster it is. And I think there is a tipping point between going to the 10 items or less with a human working. And if you only have 2 or 3 items and you have to wait behind somebody at 10 items or less and the express lane or the self-checkout is open, then I think in that scenario... But, I mean, those scales tip pretty quickly into it not being a time-efficient thing.
Well, they still owe me, every grocery store, a huge backlog of all the times that I've checked out for them. They should be sending me a paycheck.
Well, I mean, it sounds like the grocery stores are trying to move away from it because of all the theft that's taking place.
Huh.
It's getting harder and harder. There's more of a national trend of self-checkouts closing because that's an easier way to combat shoplifting than there being new ones put in. So the chance of them completely overtaking the entire Dick's grocery store cashier line is slim to none.
So you mentioned that there was some news that came up this last week that Walgreens found that they had locked up certain items that were common to be stolen, and that those items were typically purchased less because of the lock and key.
I mentioned that?
No, I don't think you mentioned it.
Oh.
No. But there was an article that came out that showed, if you put items behind lock and key, people are just not going to go that extra step of asking permission to open up the lock and get the item. They're just not going to buy it.
Oh,
well,
really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't like to do that, but I mean, I will if I have to.
I don't know if I've ever done that. Maybe once.
Well, at the big store in Beaver Dam, they lock up ink for printers, so you have to have them unlock the ink.
What's the big store?
You know.
The big box store.
Oh, we're just not going to mention it?
I don't know. I guess we can. Walmart.
We've literally mentioned. I can't imagine.
Well, I thought maybe one of us should just stop.
A time in my life when I have mentioned so many brands for free. We've gotten paid for none of that.
We have mentioned a lot of brands.
I'm trying to set a standard here. Come on.
But yeah, that's a good point.
But and also like
expensive.
and any sort of like phone accessories, like the screen protectors, they're all locked up.
A lot of that is locked up.
Yeah.
You've gotten those. You've had to do that.
Yeah, no, that's true. I guess the only time from the big box store that I've gotten like something that was locked up was like a computer mouse. And it was like $30, but they still want to be very protective of that.
Yeah. And today's episode of The Great Beaver Fiasco brought to you by Steve Save-A-Lot. Check him out today. Convenient locations in Milwaukee, Madison, the greater Green Bay area.
That's so true, Craig. And LA, I understand that Steve is having this incredible sale throughout, including in the frozen department where you can find this amazing deal that you were just checking out for us.
Tell us about it, L.A.
Frozen Snickers candy bars?
That's right. That's the only place you're going to find frozen Snicker candy bars at the lowest prices at Steve's Save-A-Lot.
That was awful.
Yeah, that
awfully
was
funny. That's going on the highlights reel for
We're still waiting to get some feedback. That's funny.
Okay, so I think comedy is dead. I don't think comedy is dead.
We've proven that comedy is dead on this podcast.
I think it is really just kind of in a coma. Like a Terry Schiavo coma, but like a coma.
Oh my gosh.
I
Wow.
know, that was probably something we should edit out.
Probably.
We do have standards
If
here.
the editor remembers to take that out.
So you see, and then that exactly it illustrates the point of comedy being a scary. Who are you going to offend? What are you going to say that is going to be pushing it a little bit too far?
Well, anyone below the age, like, I only know Terry Schiavo because you've mentioned it. I think anyone below the age of 35 probably would not really
Who is Terry Schiavo? When have I met? This is the first time in my life I think I've ever mentioned the name Terry Schiavo.
And I don't know who it is, but I just thought maybe it was poor taste to say that he was in a coma.
Well, it's a she, right?
Or
It is a woman, right? In the I want to say in the 80s, she went into a coma, and it was like there was no chance of her coming out of the coma. And the husband wanted to pull the plug. Blood family wanted to plugged in.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, so she was... Okay, so the case was in a series of court actions from 98 to 2005. So that was around for 7 years.
98 to 2005.
time.
It
Yeah.
felt like the 80s, though.
Oh, that's right. You did say it was the 80s.
I did say it was the 80s.
Well.
So, I think it resulted in the plug being pulled, if I'm not mistaken. And then, that tied into the whole Kevorkian thing and everything.
Yeah.
How did
I
we
do
get on
remember
the
that.
subject of?
Comedy being dead.
And it's just in a coma. And then we went to one of the most depressing topics we've ever discussed here on the Great Beaver Fiasco.
That is our...
Who is she, though?
She was an insurance broker, and then her husband was the one who was trying to get her to pull out the feeding tube. And it got controversial. It was publicized, and it got pushed up to George W. Bush, and that's when the 7-year delay occurred until it was finally pulled in 2005.
Well, let's get back to comedy being dead instead.
I think assisted suicide should be all right for all human beings. Thoughts?
I would love to continue this line of thought, but is this the right platform?
Comedy is dead. That is exactly why comedy is dead. Exactly what we just went through. Comedy is in a coma. The very exercise that we just went through. Everybody's got to be so conscious now of where the bumpers are in terms of acceptability.
Well,
that is the reason we're not seeing good comedy movies.
Because I'm not thinking of myself. I'm not even thinking of like one person. I'm thinking of like a group of people and how they would each like interact with that statement, and then immediately just closing the bar and saying, I think this is probably too much. But, creativity suffers that way when you're thinking about rules rather than the content.
So it seems like the question is, do more people need to be less offended, or do more people need to offend less?
Whoa.
I think more people need to offend more. Is that an option?
Well, okay, because now I'm wondering, are people just having like nervous laughter and they think it's comedy?
No,
They're just...
That happens too.
I think comedy happens. I think comedy, if you laugh, it is it's a natural reaction to something. So if it's funny, it's funny. And it does, many people find humor that pushes the envelope to be funny. I think going back to what you said about we just need to have more funny things. Well, it seems like right now, without a counterbalance on the other side of culturally us finding more of a balance between different sides of the cultural debates we're having, and until that plays out, or until we at least get a pulse on that again, I think as a culture, it's just going to be a hard nut to crack.
I don't think anyone has the idea of like what the pulse is. You ask 100 different people, they're going to give you 100 different pulse readings.
Exactly. And that maybe that's what we need to embrace.
We've kind of talked about that before, about like there is no centralized media. There's no, last episode of MASH, 80 million people watching at the same time. Like that doesn't happen anymore. Everything's so decentralized. You're never going to get back to that like central anchor point in society.
It's laughable that the concept of the mainstream media is even a boogeyman to some people. Like the mainstream media has no control over anything. I mean, granted, maybe they did in the 80s when you had 3 channels. But, I mean, that's there is more power in a, say, any media outlet, news outlet, left or right, or infotainment outlet, left or right, that they've probably got more power than any of the traditional networks, but they are not making funny movies.
Yeah, and I don't even know if I would have the... I don't know if I'd be able to tolerate trying to sit through a funny movie. Like, that's a big time investment.
Well, that's with any movie.
You don't watch movies, huh?
But comedies are typically
too much,
shorter.
No. What's that?
A lot of comedies are like 90 minutes or right around that sweet spot.
Yeah, I know. But like rom-coms, and I just don't have the patience.
Yeah. I don't think we as a culture have patience anymore.
I barely have patience to be on this podcast.
Yeah, I've kind of noticed that.
That's the show, folks.
Beaver Dam, Wisconsin's got peonies and parades. Beaverton, Oregon's where shoes are made.
Sorta.
Beaver Dam, everywhere the people all say, have a gosh dang beaver darn great damn day.